Hello there everyone, welcome back to the channel. Its-A-Mii here, and today we are doing something a little different. I wanted to just sit down and talk about game collecting, specifically from the perspective of PlayStation 5 versus Nintendo Switch 2. Now, I think this answer will be a lot more obvious for some people in terms of how they play games. For me, it's really not though, and over the past couple of months, since the Switch 2 released, I've been kind of struggling on where should I buy games? Specifically talking about third-party games, but even narrowing that down more to the specific publishers that I play most of their games, like a Square Enix or a Sega or a Capcom. What platform should I be buying these games on? Because for me, there are so many pros and cons of both platforms, both the Switch 2 and the PS5, that I'm kind of at a crossroads as I was looking ahead into the coming months of the onslaught of games from Square Enix, but also you have stuff from Sega releasing and just other publishers as well. And I'm trying to figure out where to buy all these games that I want to play. And honestly, that's what led to this video. I'm sitting here thinking, I don't know if I should get them on Switch 2 or on PS5. So that is what we are getting into today. I wanted to weigh the pros and cons of collecting on both a PlayStation 5 and the Nintendo Switch 2. Which platform is the best? Because I think for every person, it might be a different answer, though ultimately, I do think there is one more clear answer overall, but we will get to that. Of course, if you are new here and you enjoy Nintendo Switch, but also PlayStation collecting content, I would appreciate you liking the video and subscribing. Let's get into it. Okay, so for me, for the past few months, since June really, when the Switch 2 released, I've been playing games exclusively on the Switch 2. There have been a few times I booted up my PS5, but overall, basically all of my gaming hours have been on Switch 2, not just for Nintendo first party, which I think they've been doing a great job with, but also for third-party games. That is where I've been playing games like 99% of the time since the console released. Now, there have been a lot of concerns over performance and graphics on Switch 2 games, and I am someone who does kind of nitpick, I guess, a little bit more than others when it comes to these things. I do have a PS5 Pro, if that will tell you anything. So I do enjoy a good-looking game. I do enjoy knowing I'm playing the best-looking version, at least on console, of a game. But also, we're getting to the point with the Switch 2 especially, and the types of games I play, widely being RPGs, where it doesn't really matter too much. These games look and run really great on the Switch 2 as well. Even right now, I'm playing through Trails and the Sky First Chapter Remake on Switch 2, and it has some frame rate issues, kind of, but overall, I mean, it's fine. It is very comparable to the PS5 version, which I played the demo of before release. So for me, you know, I enjoy the best-looking version of a game. It's not necessary, and I think the Switch 2 is doing enough for the specific games that I play that it's not really an issue. Now, I haven't played any, big Western games on the Switch 2 yet. I didn't really play Star Wars Outlaws. I haven't tried, the sports games or anything, so I'm not sure exactly how those compare to the PS5 version. So I can't really speak on those in comparison to the PS5 versions, but looking ahead, a game like Resident Evil Requiem, that is an example of one that I would most certainly pick up on PS5 because I want that game to look as best as it can be, a little different from a remaster of a PS2 RPG like Rido or something, which I picked up on Switch 2, right? Now you might be thinking to yourself, Bo, if performance is at all a factor for you, why not go ahead and play on PS5 since you have a PS5? And the simple answer is the form factor of the Nintendo Switch 2. I love having a handheld console. I love the way this thing feels in my hands. The Switch 1 would always make me cramp up a little bit, and sometimes if I play for a long time in a handheld, the Switch 2 will do that as well. But just the sheer form factor and the flexibility in how I play my games is very important to me. I'm not someone who goes out too often playing my Switch 2. I work from home, so it's not like I'm playing it on a commute or something. However, even just being able to play it, in my office docked or on the TV docked, but then play it on the couch in the handheld while something else is on, or playing it even in bed before going to sleep at night, that for me has been the key reason I've been buying and playing my games on the Switch 2 over the past couple of months. Even if there are trade-offs, that is very important to me. I really, really enjoy having that handheld experience. I would say in the past 4 months, 70% of my gaming time has been in handheld. That is how much I'm using this thing portably. But also, that's kind of the only major benefit to the Switch 2. You're losing performance, you're losing trophies, as we'll get to, you're losing the true physical aspect of collecting with the game keycards, which we'll definitely talk about that. But the handheld factor, that is so powerful to me, that is so important to me, that it has slowly kind of outweighed the other aspects. But as we're looking ahead at this holiday lineup, and I'm trying to figure out what platform to pre-order these games on, I'm kind of second-guessing myself on whether or not that handheld is important enough for me to lose all these other benefits of the PlayStation collecting aspect, if that makes sense. So first things first, talking about handheld, I do want to show this. I do have a PlayStation Portal, and this thing kind of works really good, but then other times it completely doesn't work. I have not used it in a few months. The last game I played extensively using this was Fantasy Life. I played a lot of Fantasy Life on the Portal back in May, but there are times where I turn it on and it just doesn't work. I have very good internet. I'm not playing far away from my router or anything, but there are times where the Portal just completely craps out. If that worked flawlessly with no issues, that would pretty much eliminate the Switch 2 in my mind, at least in terms of third party. First party is always going to be cool. I'm always happy playing Nintendo games. They're my favorite games maker, right? So I'm going to be there for the first party stuff. But in terms of third party, in terms of my Square Enix and my JRPGs and stuff, if the Portal worked properly without any fear of it lagging or whatever, I think I would be on PlayStation 90% of the time, at least. But then we start getting into the cons of the Switch 2, where really the only major benefit for me is handheld. I will say it's also a little different for me coming from it from like the YouTuber perspective of someone who has an entire channel dedicated to covering Nintendo. Its-A-Mii was a little bit different, where I mostly review games and talk about collecting, so not quite the same, but still very Nintendo leaning. But either way, Bo Talks Games, my main channel, is a Nintendo channel, so there is almost this aspect of wanting to play them on Switch 2 just because of that, and being able to cover the Switch 2 versions of these games specifically for the YouTube audience. So I do want to note that as well. But then talking about like the actual collecting and having the games on the shelf and having all these franchises together, I recently picked up Ninja Gaiden Ragebound on the Nintendo Switch here from Koei Tecmo and Silver Lining, and I was debating whether to get it on Switch or PS5, and then they announced the 60 FPS patch for Switch running on Switch 2, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna get it on Switch. But then, I was playing it, I'm enjoying this game, it's a fun game. And then I was thinking about, like, from, like, the collecting perspective, I have the Ninja Gaiden trilogy on PS4, I have Ninja Gaiden 2 Black physically on PS5. I got a code for this, so I bought it just for the collection. And then I'm getting Ninja Gaiden 4 on PS5 next month as well. This is now the odd one out, and I just have it on Switch, you know? So, like, that feels just kind of wrong. Even though this type of 2D side-scrolling Ninja Gaiden game that kind of feels like it fits well on Switch, I don't know, man. I have every other Ninja Gaiden game on PS5. Why should this one be different, you know? And there are a lot of series that I really love that same kind of thing applies to. So Yakuza is a big one that I'm not caught up on the series by any stretch of the imagination, but Yakuza 0 I played for the first time on PS4 a few years back, and it's one of my favorite games of all time now. I picked up Yakuza 0 Director's Cut on Switch 2, and I played, a decent amount of this. I played the online mode that they added, and it's fun, it's cool, and I like the idea of having all the Yakuza games on Switch 2, and I think they will get to that point eventually. But also, I already have them all on PS4, and I'm not a stranger to double dipping, don't get me wrong, especially when they add new content, even if it was kind of meaningless, like in Yakuza 0's case. But I've already rolled credits on Yakuza 0 and Kiwami on PlayStation. I have some trophies for those games. Am I really going to jump ship when Kiwami 2 comes, the next game I need to play? Am I really going to jump ship and start playing them on Switch 2 when I could just play them on PS5, where I've already been playing them, and frankly, where once you get to those later entries, they will look and run better on PS5? I don't know. It's kind of hard to make that call when the handheld portability function of the Switch 2 is so useful to me. But the game that actually made me start really thinking about what platform I want to start buying my games for and investing more towards in the future was Demon Slayer 2, the Hinokami Chronicles. I've been playing through this and getting Olivia caught up on the anime so we can go see the new movie, because she's never seen it, and Demon Slayer isn't something I'm in love with or anything, but I love CyberConnect 2's anime games, I love the Naruto Storm games. I platinumed the first entry in the series, and it was a lot of fun. I like platinuming these CC2 anime games, and I was looking at it because it was on sale for $40 because of the movie, and I was looking at the Switch version, and then I saw the PS5 version, same price, and I'm like, why would I buy the Switch 1 version when the PS5 version, A, is going to look and run better, B, I played the first game on PS5, so there's not going to be any weird, like, okay, I have the first game on PS5 and the second game on Switch. And finally, trophies. I like collecting trophies. I know some people are really against them, but the more I've been playing on Switch 2 the past couple of months, the more I've been missing hunting for trophies. And that's not every game. Not every game I'm going to go for the platinum for, but for a lot of these RPGs, for these like anime fighting games that I like to play a lot, I've done videos on like anime games on Switch, there comes a point where it's like, is it really worth the trade-off of handheld for me? If Nintendo had trophies, that would completely change the game. If they had a trophy-wide system just like PlayStation, where first-party games have it, but also third-party, that would make it way easier for me to be like, okay, I'm going to keep investing in Nintendo as a platform. I'm going to keep investing in third parties on this platform. But at this point, I'm weighing the portability of the Switch 2 versus trophies and also better graphics on PlayStation 5. But also talking about it from the perspective of someone who likes collecting games, we haven't even addressed the elephant in the room, and that is, where is it? Game keycards. Bada bang, bada boom. Yeah, this has been quite the talking point over the past few months. I've done several videos talking about why I personally, for me, it's not a deal breaker. I don't mind game key cards. Yeah, it sucks. I wish the data was on the cartridge. I totally get that. But for me, it's not like a deal breaker to the point where I'm not going to buy the game or play the game on that platform, especially if it's exclusive. If it's an exclusive game, I'm like, okay, sure, whatever. But I think for most people watching this video, and especially like the broader vocal community of game collectors online, game keycards clearly have not been a hit. I still think the entire situation is a little overblown. We're seeing stuff like 7 Remake, you know, go towards the top of the charts on Amazon as soon as that went up for pre-order. So I think depending on the game, people are willing to make that sacrifice of it being a game keycard, especially in that case, the game is bigger than 64 gigs. So it kind of makes a little bit more sense. But to the point, a game like Requiem, let's say even if Resident Evil Requiem was under 64 gigs, I think that is an example of a game that people would, you know, cough up the cash for the game keycard. I don't think that's going to be a deal breaker for the majority of people. But in the online circles, the communities that we're in on Reddit, or even just on this channel and my comments, I have a lot of people that watch all these videos, which I really appreciate. Clearly, game keycards have not been a hit. And it adds to this entire negative aspect of collecting that even though I personally do not, you know, have too much of an issue with game keycards, I'm buying them, it does make it less fun to talk about, which is part of the fun of collecting for me. It is talking about collecting with friends, with the community, and so many people are against game keycards. There are people that, you know, do like them as well. Certainly in my comments, I've definitely cultivated a little bit of an audience of people that don't really mind them. But then every video, there's still people being like, no, I hate game keycards. You're a scumbag for buying them. And I'm just like, okay, let's take a step back. It's not that serious. But all that is to say, the negativity surrounding physical collecting on Switch 2 has kind of made it less fun. Even though it's not an issue for me, like the keycards themselves, the community aspect around it, and this reality that every time a game is announced and it's a game keycard, people throw a fit about it, it's just made it really negative and not too fun to talk about. So I'm kind of just over here quietly collecting my Switch 2 cartridges and having a great time playing these games. But that is another factor as well for me when trying to decide, like, okay, am I going to buy Octopath Zero, for example, or Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD, or even Final Fantasy Tactics, which is only on Switch 1. Am I going to buy these games on Switch, or am I just going to get it on PS5 where performance not really going to make a difference, graphics not really going to make a difference, they're going to run fine on Switch 2, especially in handheld, where I think like Octopath is 4K 60 on PS5, but also that's a game I would mostly play in handheld on Switch 2 at 1080 60, which I'm pretty sure is what that's running at. I don't know, man. It's hard. It's actually like a real thing. I'm trying to like figure out, like, is it worth it for me to keep buying these games on Switch 2 and enjoy them on Switch 2 and have that handheld experience, or get the better performance, graphics, all that, trophies, big factor, but then also just strip myself from the entire conversation of this, which, once again, I do not mind, but people online are feral about. And I get it. I understand not liking it, but also it is, like, tiring to see a little bit. I gotta be honest. So I am curious what you all think in the comments down below. What platform are you collecting for and buying games for moving forward? Switch 2 or PS5? Switch 2 is going to be interesting because I do think as we get further removed from launch, we will see more and more games on the cartridge, be that them costing more. Maybe Nintendo figures out a way to have more storage options for it. And I think we will see more and more people hop on board with Switch 2 collecting. But for me, that's really not the major reason I'm more considering PS5 recently. It's the fact that there are trophies, which I know for a lot of people, they don't even care about that. But for me, it is a pretty major aspect in terms of how I like to play games and see them all the way through and, you know, fully complete them, which you can do on Switch 2. But also, and I know it might sound stupid, I enjoy a little list. I enjoy a little trophy on my profile. It is just a digital gold star, but for me, it does add a lot to these games. So, I don't know. Kind of at a crossroads. I wanted to hear what you all think in the comments down below, though. Are you going to be buying third-party games on Switch 2 or PS5? Let me know your thoughts down there. Of course, subscribe here for more Nintendo Switch and PS5 collecting videos. Follow me on Twitter at BoTalksGames. And until next time, folks, peace.